Hey, I'm James Kotecki. You're here with me in the C-Space Influencer Studio here at CES 2019. And with us is my friend and a guy I've interviewed several times before, Michael Scott, Head of Sales East, Samsung Ads. Welcome to the C-Space Influencer Studio.
Thanks, James. Yeah, it's good to see you again.
So I've talked to you several times, but those people who are watching today may never have heard from you before. So how do you introduce yourself to someone you're meeting for the first time here at CES?
Yeah, so I'm Head of Sales East for Samsung Ads. Samsung Ads is an audience platform that leverages the ACR, automated content recognition data that we have on 35 million televisions in 30 million homes in the United States. And we use this audience platform to really work with advertisers to better understand kind of the changing landscape in television, how consumers are viewing programming, most importantly, how they're interacting with advertising, and then how that advertising then impacts on their business outcomes.
So give me a sense of the scope of the kind of data that we're talking about and the insights that you can have.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. So our ACR data is visual based. It sits on the screen and we're able to detect what consumers, households are watching on the 35 million televisions that are in 30 million homes. And with that data, we're able to see a tremendous amount of trends. We're able to see not only ads that are viewed, but also how people are viewing content, whether it's linear, whether it's time delayed, time shifted, or even in app. And from that, we've seen some really interesting stats lately about how about consumers have really shifted their behaviors in the past 5 years.
Well, let's talk about a few of those. Anything you can share?
Yeah, so I think one of the things, like most things in the news, is it tends to be overblown, the death of linear television. We see that there's still a tremendous amount of consumption that's happening with linear, but you are starting to see some behavioral shift. We really attribute that to kind of consumers that are getting their content when they get it, when they want it, how they want to get it. We see about 81%, 82% of our homes are still using linear television. We see about 22% are only kind of app behavior. But then we have this interesting group in the middle, which we call the total TV watcher. It's about 46 to 48% of our households that watch both. And we really attribute this to people that are mixing, maybe their Netflix or their Amazon, Hulu apps with live television or being able to watch on tape delay and kind of getting their content how they want to get it, where they want to get it, with whatever service they might have.
And intuition, and those of us at a technology show like CES might say that over time that number of kind of purists who are just in that 22%, who are totally kind of cord cutters or whatever, will grow over time. Is that the trend that you see happening?
We're starting to see the trend, certainly. I think a lot of it is down to kind of the quality content that's being produced. I saw a stat recently that last year was the first time ever that the apps, the Hulu's, Netflix, Amazons of the world, had produced more original content than all of the linear and cable networks combined. So that's a tremendous shift in terms of what's happening. It's good to be a producer in Hollywood these days, by the way. But as we start to see that, I think you're going to start to see, again, this flight towards quality. You start to see that consumers want to find what they want to watch, when they want to watch it. And as this new generation comes along, they're really ambivalent about the source. They don't know from linear, from app. They want to get it when they want to get it.
Sure, and to be clear, I think for people, you're getting insights from Samsung devices, but it's not just powering ads that are on exclusively Samsung
Correct.
devices.
So we will take that device, we will take the viewership behavior that happens on Samsung TVs in 30 million homes, but those 30 million homes, I'd love for them all to have Samsung devices, but they have other devices, they have other televisions in there, they might have other smart TV applications, tools, and then as well as desktop and mobile applications. And we're able to take our information, our data, and we're able to reach consumers across all of their devices in the household.
So we talk about how linear is still holding on and still very strong, and maybe stronger than maybe people intuitively think. But linear is also not that great for advertisers in terms of being able to efficiently reach audiences, right? Like I saw some stat, I think it was one of your executives were talking about, there was a campaign where something like the advertiser was only reaching 9% of its intended audience, and then when they went to more advanced methods in addressable TV, they were able to reach a larger percentage. So it's not just because linear is still around, you should dump the same amount of money into it, right?
Right, and so I think, as with everything, is that as the consumers begin to shift and their behavior begins to shift, smart marketers are beginning to shift and alter their behavior, right? And they're following the consumer. And so one of the things that we really encourage marketers to think about today are gone are the days where you just kind of rely on 75 adult 18 to 49 rating points in a week. And get really smart. I mean, use all the tools at your disposal. Understand how consumers are watching, the programming. What are they getting? Don't just rely on Nielsen ratings. Actually, we're able to tell our clients exactly how many households were exposed to an ad. We're actually telling them which households were exposed and which weren't, and then we could help them shore up that. As a matter of fact, we worked with a luxury auto manufacturer who wanted to reach a heavy network advertiser, but they knew that they weren't reaching everybody just because of the way the shift has happened. Yeah. So we helped them find homes that were not reached through our ACR data. We gave them a 24% incremental lift in reaching their key audience.
And so a key message to folks here at CES is people do still watch commercials, right?
People still do watch commercials. I think one of the things that you're also seeing with the in-app and the ad-supported app behavior is that the completion rates and people following the commercials are significantly higher than what you may see in linear television. I attribute that to kind of the ad load, how many ads are in a commercial pod. Others may attribute that it just may be the way you have to watch it. But we are able to see and detect all of that behavior and then provide that sort of data back to advertisers so they can really understand how to tailor and customize their campaigns best for their consumers.
You mentioned earlier that from a consumer perspective, it's all kind of a blur or a blob, and they don't really think about any of the distinctions that we're talking about here. Is the definition of television itself changing? I think this is a question I've actually asked you before, and I want to keep asking this question because I think it's really important and interesting to hear. Is the definition of TV itself changing, and how will it change?
I think I said yes last time, and I'll continue to say yes because it continues to evolve. Yeah. Look, I work for a consumer electronics company. We're all about the consumer and about that consumer experience. And we're rolling out innovations. Hopefully you might have saw our press conference on Monday. We had an amazing groundbreaking deal with Apple. Never thought that would have happened, but now iTunes will be on the Samsung televisions this year. As well as our universal guide, which really allows consumers to find what they want to watch, when they want to watch it, again, regardless of source. So, does it matter what we call television? Does it matter what box we put it in? Or what really matters is for advertisers that I work with and brands that I work with, really to understand the shifting consumer behavior and how they can help engage, how we can help them engage with that message with their consumers.
I don't know if this is going to sound weird, but it almost is like television is a state of mind, right? If I'm watching videos throughout the day, I maybe not think that I'm watching, but if I'm at the end of my day and I'm relaxing, like I'm in my television watching mode, and maybe I'm receptive to certain kind of advertising that way.
Television is a state of mind. It's very zen.
Yeah, feel free to use that.
I will.
2020, if you want to use that.
Yeah, I will.
Is there a limit to, as a person in ad sales, is there a limit to how much TV people actually are going to watch? I mean, the numbers we see keep rising. Obviously, everybody's succeeding. Everybody's producing tons of content. You said it's a great time to be a producer in Hollywood. More scripted shows than ever, more places to put ads, but eventually aren't we going to run out of just attention span as a finite resource?
Well, there's only 24 hours in a day, so there is that limit that we'll absolutely run against. But joking aside, I think what's really important is that consumers want to watch quality programming and they want to engage with it on their terms, when they want to get it, how they want to get it. So the real winners in this, from a programming standpoint, will continue to deliver those customized content experiences that are right for that consumer. But the advertisers that are going to win are going to be able to find them when, as you said, they're kind of in that relaxed state, in a state where they're open to messages. And they're open to relevant messages. And I think that's one thing that needs to be spoken about more, is how do marketers really understand what's a relevant message? And how many times do you have to message that consumer before they just go crazy and watch too much?
Right. So is there any data on that? Is there, like, if I see a commercial 7 times, I'm over it? I mean, it kind of depends on what kind of commercial it is.
It is, and it depends on the brand, and every brand has their own frequency, what would be called frequency targets. One of the things that we're able to do is we're able to help manage that frequency. So across all these disparate and kind of separate entities, there are a lot of ways you can advertise. And what we're able to do is we're able to see at a total household level how that household's been exposed to commercials. And we actually help some of our brands, customers, manage their frequency to get it up to their acceptable level.
Do certain companies do better with addressable advertising than others? Are there certain kinds of industries for which it is a more efficient use of their dollars than others?
So I think the companies that are doing best in advanced television have a few things. One is that they're using television. They rely on it heavily to drive messaging, right? Whether it's brand or whether it's some sort of call to action. The second thing is that they're intent on using data, because advanced television at its core is about data. It's about leveraging data for smarter decisions and measurement. So they're using data to really drive their actions. Those two things, if you're heavily relying on data and you're heavily relying on television, you'll do very well. Third thing is you separate yourself from kind of traditional currency and you realize what really matters to make my business objectives happen.
one of the things we've heard a lot about in the C-Space Influencer Studio this year has been the idea of trust. Trust between consumers and the advertisers and the technologies that they use, trust between the brands and the technologies that they want to be advertising with. How do you think about trust going into 2019 with the data that you're collecting?
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously, with us, Samsung, we're a consumer electronics company. We have a very stringent privacy policy that's in place. It's an opt-in, triple opt-in policy, and are incredibly compliant with the data that we collect and manage on behalf of the consumers. Ultimately, it's about using that for a better consumer experience. It powers our AI, which powers the content recommendations as well.
What's your overall message to people here at CES 2019?
Well, it's an exciting year. It's an exciting year to be in television. It's an exciting year for marketers. I think for marketers, I'd really encourage them to spend this year really thinking and activating around data, using data on television to not be fearful of all of the fragmentation in television, but really look at it as an opportunity. Look at it as an opportunity to kind of find those pockets of innovation, those pockets of opportunity where they can really make their dollars go farther.
Michael Scott, Samsung Ads.
Yeah, good to see you, Jay.
Thanks so much for joining me. Once again, hope to have you back on very soon and chatting with you again. I am James Kotecki. You're here with me in the C-Space Influencer Studio here at CES 2019. Keep it right here because more great conversations are just a click away.